Hey, what's going on people? It's SGZ here from the SpartanGameZone, and in this video I'll be covering how Gearbox accidentally, or more accurately, inadvertently, made one of the most powerful weapons in the game way stronger. I can use this to down the beefiest bosses in the game with one pull of the trigger. It's kinda crazy. This weapon didn't receive a damage buff, instead one small line in the patch notes had a massive impact on this gun's ability to deal damage. I'll be letting you know everything you need to understand before you can one-shot bosses like this. Keep an eye out for the build video dropping on the weekend, and let's crack into it. You may have noticed prior to the big update, using weapons like the Rainbow Vomit in combination with skills that increased gun handling caused the projectiles to just fall out of the barrel. Well, that was fixed last week, with a line in the patch notes stating that skills that boost gun handling now properly increase projectile speed. That means when speccing into gun handling, the Rainbow Vomit and weapons like it are much more usable at longer ranges, and more usable in general. But what if we went the other way? What if we reduced our gun handling? Well, the Rainbow Vomit turns into a hot mess, as you'd expect, but what if I told you that could be a good thing? Where it becomes a good thing, a great thing, a simply unstoppable thing, is on melee one shotguns with the Beam Tosser Alt Fire mode. This can drop on the Stellium, the Vertex, and apparently even a Kickballer, although I can't verify that myself. Why negative gun handling is so good on a Beam Tosser is because of how it calculates damage. If you're familiar with the lob in Borderlands 3, it operates pretty much in the same vein, where its projectiles will pierce through enemies, dealing damage while in close proximity. Each tick of damage is incredibly strong, and it has a pretty wide radius too. Before the update, gun handling had no impact on this weapon's projectile speed. Here, prior to the update, you'll notice the projectiles move at a pretty quick speed. They're not lightning fast, you wouldn't expect them to be, but they are quick and noticeably so. However, in the exact same build after the update, the projectiles are noticeably slower. And that is the reason why this weapon, one of the most powerful weapons in the game, is even stronger than it was before. You see, the slower the projectile moves, the greater the amount of time it is in close proximity to an enemy, resulting in it applying many more ticks of damage before it moves too far away from them to deal any more. Slowing the Beam Tosser's projectile speed down as much as we can allows us to apply almost all of its damage potential to a single target. And that is a lot of damage potential, enough to defeat the most powerful enemies in the game with a single toss of a beam. Because of the nature of how this gun deals damage, it does perform best against bigger targets. But lucky for us, many of the bosses in Borderlands 4, especially the toughest ones, are the biggest ones. So this weapon perfectly suits them. It does take a little bit of practice to squeeze maximum damage potential out of a single shot though, and the number one tip I can give you is to make sure you align yourself with the longest point of your target. So if your target is longer than they are wide, you want to shoot lengthways. It's all about having the projectile in close proximity for the longest amount of time, because that is where the damage lies. At its core though, the key to dealing the most damage with this is to reduce that projectile speed as much as you can. At the very least, you'll want to avoid skills that increase gun handling. As demonstrated here on Rafa, increases to gun handling can cause this projectile to move so quickly that you don't even see it. That means no ticks of damage, basically making this weapon useless, so please do avoid increasing your gun handling if you're planning to maximize damage with this weapon. When you're looking to reduce gun handling, Amon can do it through his skill Tactician, which grants reduced gun handling while hip firing. A full 5 points will get you negative 30% gun handling, effectively reducing the projectile speed by 30%, and you can gain another 5 from 5 points on a Shadow White class mod. However, no one does negative gun handling better than Rafa. Temerario is the skill you'll want to pick up, which is at the core of reducing Rafa's gun handling. It grants you negative 1% gun handling for each point you spec into it. You'll gain a stack of it every second while Overdrive is active, capping out at a maximum of 10 stacks. And with a maximum of 5 points, that is a 50% reduction in your gun handling. That's not much to begin with, but when we combine that with 5 points in Hake, to increase our overdrive bonuses by 50% while at max stacks, coupled with Soltado, which doubles our overdrive bonuses, and double them again with a Dancer class mod which can also drop with 5 points in Temerario, then you have so much negative gun handling that you can slow those beam tosses to a crawl. There's a huge difference between the standard projectile speed of this gun and what we can do when we take negative gun handling to the extreme, and that means we've unlocked the door to massive damage potential. I didn't even get close to one-shotting some of these bosses before, but now this gun absolutely annihilates them. It decimates health bars, and I gotta say I kinda feel bad for the bosses. The one downside to this though is that beam tosses are rare. They're just one of those things you have to look out for, and I hope you've been looking since the first time I showcased this gun, cause you're bound to have some in your bag. Otherwise it's no better time to start than now. When looking for the best beam tosses, it really depends on the damage they deal. The spread in potential damage they deal can be quite a lot. I've got a cryo one here that deals a little over 13,000 damage, and a radiation one that deals a little over 19,000 damage. That's almost a 50% difference, and they're both the same rarity and both stelliums. However, don't think you need to get a purple one. Make sure to look out for those blues as well, as they can be stronger than some of the weaker purples. Once you've got your beam tosser, reduce your gun handling, and understand how to shoot this weapon to deal the most damage, then the last thing to do to get that one shot is to amp up your power to the extreme. What I'm referring to here is to use amp items. There's pretty much two ways to amp up your shots in Borderlands 4. One of those is through a rep kit with an amp roll to grant 200% damage to our first shot, and the other is with an amp roll on our shield to drain our shields to deal up to 150% amp damage. I'm only using a shield with 2 amp parts to provide 100% gun damage, and amp shields with 1 part will increase your gun damage by 50%, 2 parts 100, and 3 parts 150%. You don't need triple amp rolls on your shield to do this. I only have the standard 2, and that's a pretty common drop.